Hello, this is Jay from daytradingsupport.net, and I'm looking at a potential entry on the mini Dow. We just broke through a trend line to the downside. Was cautious, thinking that we might have a reversal. We had a pivot high, and we came down. We couldn't break a new low, so I thought, well, we might be reversing from here. But then it couldn't make a new high. Well, that made me think, well, maybe if we come down and test that trend line, we might then reverse back up to the upside and have a full board bull run. But then it broke through this trend line here, and that shows us that we may have a strong continuation to the downside. So now I'm looking for an entry, waiting for a wholesale entry. Um, Either it's going to come back to this trend line. Judging by the volume, we we may or may not stop at this trend line. I'm kind of watching a 1 minute chart right now. We had a whole bunch of volume come in at at this point here, and now the sellers are slowing down, and it looks like we're fading back. Now the question is, are we going to test this trend line area that we broke through and then have a continuation? Or are we going to come back and retest the 50% Fibonacci? That's the next area that you want to keep an eye out for. Let's just move this trend line out of the way. I'm going to try my Fibonacci tool. That would be at, let's see, 17,871. So the 871. Where are we? 871. So right about here. Kind of that area. That's interesting. Well, it looks like it did just what I thought it would. It tested that trend line, rejected off of there, and now we could get a continuation. Of course, you never want to take a trade from down there. Um, a better entry would have been at the trend line just to scalp out a couple ticks. But you really want to wait for a real good solid wholesale entry. So if you can wait for it to tick up, and that entry on the 871 would probably be a better entry. So I'm going to wait it out until it gets me a better wholesale entry. All right, so now it's just a waiting game. We're going to see either this is going to move grinding lower, which it certainly could. Just then you got to wonder how much more will it run with the amount of momentum and volume. And there's probably not a lot of room down there to make anything, you know. Now, if we had a huge amount of volume, right now we're averaging about 200 or 300 contracts per minute on the mini Dow. That's it's not really high, not high enough. I would want to see if we saw like 700 to 1,000 a minute and they were all sellers coming into the market, we might want to consider jumping in there, taking the continuation. But as you can see, it's running out of steam here, and there's just not enough Not enough people in there, not enough volume. I have a feeling we're going to test this area and probably come back and test our previous trend areas. Kind of create a new area. Let's see. Of course, you have these trend lines drawn all over. I'm looking for price to come up, test this 50 period moving average, and looking for an entry right around there. And then see if we can take it further down. Yeah. Well, it might take its time now. After all that movement, it's taking a pause. So I think we'll pause the video and we'll be back as this formulates. Okay, we are moving our way back up. Looks like prices getting closer to our estimated retracement. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on a couple of other indicators. Watching a lot of buyers come into the market right now. So they're going to take this thing a little higher. And I'm still on the fence as far as where to, if we come up to this 17,871 area, I'm going to watch this 233. And if it starts to show some weakness and maybe continuation of the downside, I might take an entry. If it blows right past that area, or if it shows me any indication that it's not going to, come back down, then we might head all the way up to this trend line at the top. It always helps when you draw these trend lines as the market is developing, and it helps you frame the market. You don't know if price is really going to obey that trend line or break through it, but it's good to have a frame so that you can see probabilities unfold. Boy, that trade on crude would have worked out. That thing moved all the way back up to its the high end of its channel. But anyways, let's see here. Okay, so the 233, just kind of watching it carefully here. And get rid of this trend line now. This is of no use to me really. And there's a little pop to the downside. See if I can get an order ready. Really looking for a break below this, back into this trading zone below. And it's not giving me that kind of weakness yet. I'm just going to hold off. At least it did hold right at that 17,871, but that would be expected to happen. I'm looking for is now I'm looking for a continuation below 17,860, which is giving me right now a little movement. I want to break down to that area below back into this bottom trading zone. When you watch the 233 chart, you're also looking for a bit of momentum. You know, I want to see how fast that price action moves. And right now, it's a little sluggish. I'm locked and loaded, ready for an entry in case it decides to move to the downside. And there it goes. There's a pop. Let's see if it can give me more indication that it's going lower. Looking for sellers to come into the market. They're not coming in. It's very light on volume right now. We're at 150 contracts per minute. And there's not enough sellers to really convince me here. Just waiting for some participants to jump into the market. So I'm watching right now a 1 minute chart, kind of glancing at my 233 and my minute chart. There we go. There's some confirmation. See if I can get an entry. And there's my continuation. Really want to see this thing push down a little further. There we go. There's our push. Now I'm going to start locking in some of my profit. I just don't want to give anything back right now. The market's been very volatile. Once we break past that trading zone, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. There we go. Now I'm going to lock it in. Got myself 20 ticks. I'm not greedy. Just going to hone in on that really tight as I trail in. Half of the challenge at being a trader and a successful, consistent trader is managing your emotions. And your heart starts to race when you're trading live money. You start to panic. You don't think clearly. So I advise when you're getting into the live parts of trading, you get past the paper trading. When you're engaging in the market, we need to achieve a mindfulness of our emotions and what our body's doing. You know, when you start to panic, you start to have a shallow breath. Your heart rate increases. You start to lean forward in your chair. Your eyes widen. Those are all things that need to be managed and kind of mindful. You need to stop yourself and think, what's happening to me? So a lot of this is really just managing that panic and learning how to be aware of it as it's happening. And that's really what I always encourage traders to do. I've been doing that for oh the last 6 months, really focusing on managing my emotions. And I'm just letting this thing kind of breathe a little bit, and I ran a tight stop, and now I'm comfortable at where it's going. Buyers are coming back in the market, so I might pinch it in a little bit. I see some buyers trying to bring this thing back up in a large volume. And this will lock me in at about 20 ticks, which I'm completely comfortable with. I am not greedy.